Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Tom Spark, and today we're doing something a little different format, and a little different subject. Normally, what I do is VPN reviews, but today we're going to be doing kind of a compare and contrast between Adobe Premiere Pro and Davinci Resolve. So these are two different video editors, and I've been using a Premiere Pro for about a year or so editing videos on YouTube. I used to work with Final Cut Pro a while back, which I liked, but since I do use PC, Premiere Pro seemed to be the only option, but lately I've heard about this new thing called Davinci Resolve. Now, it's not terribly new, but it is quite unique in that it's free to use, and then there is a paid model. Now, the cool thing about the free model is you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. And now, a lot of kind of video editing platforms with the free model, there's going to be like a little tag at the bottom or a watermark, or it's going to be pretty restricted in features, and Resolve isn't really like that. So in some ways, that is a really cool feature, and it's actually probably going to be one of the main reasons that I'm switching over from Premiere Pro to Davinci Resolve. Now, Premiere Pro, you do have to pay monthly, around $20 to $30 per month, and then there's various packages, of course, that you can subscribe to. But it is annoying that you have to subscribe to it, and it is quite expensive overall, especially adding up month over month. But another big reason why I stopped using Premiere Pro is because it would always crash and have a lot of problems. Now, there's a couple different bugs I want to touch on. So last time when I was editing footage in Premiere Pro, what happened is that it actually froze. So one of the things that you could do in Premiere Pro to prevent freezing and losing your footage is actually to configure the autosave feature. It's at 1 minute right now, and it should have always been at 1 minute, but maybe the application updated at some point in time. Whatever the reason, it reverted it back to 15 minutes. And the time I was editing, I just made a short, quick video, just a couple minutes long, but I did do a fair amount of editing within that time period, and it actually crashed right before 15 minutes, so I ended up losing all of my footage. Now, this was really annoying, and I discovered that the time period was set back to 15 minutes, maybe due to, like I said, some kind of update to the application that reset my settings or something, I'm not quite sure. But anyways, I did end up losing my footage, and I had to go in here and implement that autosave feature once more. Pretty annoying thing, to say the least. Now, another bug that I've noticed, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to replicate it right now, but when you put a clip into the timeline, sometimes what I've noticed is that as you're putting it in, kind of like so, it doesn't seem to be having the problem right now, but as you put it in, what happens is that it only puts in the audio. It won't kind of put in the video, and what I've had to do is save Adobe Premiere Pro, come back in, and then it'll let me do it. A pretty annoying bug, to say the least. Now, another annoying thing I've noticed is that sometimes it won't show these settings here in the effect controls. If I select a clip, sometimes it won't show it properly, which is pretty annoying. I'll have to, again, save and come back, and then it will show it up here. A little bit of an annoying bug. Between those things and crashing, it can be quite annoying to use. A couple other things that I don't really like about the application is that a couple of the effects are a little bit wonky. So for example, I could go ahead and oh man, I already forgot some of the hotkeys because I've been using Resolve. So you could select this clip right here, this clip, and if I want to do a blur effect, I could go ahead and pick blur. Let's see here, Gaussian blur. So I could drag it on this, and then if I want to do it like this, I can click right here and then kind of see, it's kind of weird. What is going on? Alright, so somehow it got selected or whatever. So if I'm doing this, but it's really close together, as you could see, it just kind of puts it in like this. So it gets kind of tricky to put a selection if you want it to be like in a small box. Overall, I just kind of find that these controls are a little bit fiddly. Now we're going to go ahead and show you that same exact thing in Resolve in a second, but I kind of wanted to start talking about Resolve a little bit. So with the Resolve, I think that overall it kind of does a lot of the same things that Premiere Pro does, but it does it kind of more of a friendly interface. That's one thing I really like about it. So we could go ahead and show you an example here in Davinci Resolve. So here's the clip. And now, so the way it works in Resolve, I actually like it a lot better than in Premiere Pro. So you're not going to have to go look in those effects and look for kind of like the blur and drag it onto the clip and go into the effect controls and click that thing. Resolve, it's pretty easy to do the blur effect. You could go to color, and then you're going to click on this little button here, click on this, and then as you can see here, it's very precise. There's none of that annoying kind of stuff where, you know, you're trying to swivel it or whatever like that. So it seems like it's kind of stuck right there. So as you can see, we can do it very precisely, tiny. There we go. So I just find that it's easier to do that in Resolve. And then when we want to blur, we could just go to this setting here and then go ahead and start blurring it. As you can see, so very easy to blur. This is something I need to use a lot in my videos when I'm blurring out IP addresses, confidential information, stuff like that. So very easy to see. Another thing I really like about Resolve is that there's a cool kind of tabular interface down here, switching between different settings. So you can go to edit, and then you can go to deliver. So deliver is where you're going to render and stuff like that. The cool thing about that is just here at the top, I'm going to expand that a little bit so you can see. It's kind of a visual interface here where you can see exactly what kind of stuff you want to export. And as someone who's using YouTube a lot, as you can see, this would be very helpful for me. Overall, I think it's not that hard in Premiere Pro to do that, but I think it's a little more visual here and easier to use. And I like how you can just go to the render or the deliver, you add to render queue, and then once it's here, you just start render. And I actually find that the Resolve seems a bit quicker in how it renders and exports things, which is always nice to save time. So in terms of how you edit, Resolve and Premiere Pro are pretty similar. The one thing that is a little bit wonky about Resolve, I've noticed, is that when you're kind of cutting with this blade, sometimes this like thing kind of gets in the way. I'm not quite sure why. It doesn't seem to have that problem right now, but it's pretty easy to cut things, as you can see. And one thing that is cool about Resolve is that there's this link selection feature. So if you unlink this selection, you can actually select this and delete it, which is really cool. And you could do that and see it will be linked. However, with Premiere Pro, as you could cut it, and then as you can see here, it's like linked, and there's not really a linked kind of feature really, as far as I know. But what you have to do is go down here and do unlink. So that will unlink it. Just a little bit of a nitpicky thing, but I do like how that is there, as well as the snapping feature. It's a little more clear on how to use that than it is within Adobe Premiere Pro. Just again, Resolve just seems a little bit easier to use and a little bit more intuitive. Not only that, when you're controlling kind of like how the video looks in terms of this, it's just right here. Whereas with Adobe Premiere Pro, it's over here, and it's not. I find that these settings are a little bit more confusing to use, whereas this feels like more big and it's not too many things to worry about. Pretty easy to use there. Another cool thing about Resolve is that zoom features are pretty cool, because there's this button, and you could kind of adjust this in a very intuitive way and kind of get it how you want it to. Whereas I find that with the Premiere Pro, you could double click it and kind of do the same thing. But one thing about it is that, as you can see, it's not like squeezing it in the same way. And I've had a lot of problems kind of configuring this. It's a little bit laggy, as you could see. Whereas with Resolve, it just seems incredibly smooth. So maybe even performance-wise, it just, again, it seems a little bit easier to do it in Resolve than in Premiere Pro. And you're thinking, well, if there's so many good things about Resolve already and it's free, why not just use it instead of Premiere Pro? Well, that's exactly my point. Anyways, guys, this is just a short video showing you some cool things and small nitpicky differences that I've noticed between two different video editors, between Premiere Pro and Resolve. So far, I've had a good time using Resolve, and I haven't really had any problems, and I've been able to edit my videos pretty well and effectively. Let me know if you have any questions down below if you like this video, and I'll see you again very soon.